In this video, I'm gonna analyze an iconic building from Apex Legends to determine how accurately video games portray architecture. Let's drop shock and rock. Hey, my name is Spear and I'm a multimedia designer with a background in architecture. So a few months ago, I got this idea of drafting up plans for a building from Apex Legends, and I'm excited to dive in and share with you 5 things that I actually ended up analyzing and how it made me appreciate the game even more. Now, in Apex, gameplay comes first, and it always will. So with that in mind, let's take a look at one of the most iconic POIs in Kings Canyon and go in depth on how accurately the game portrays its architecture. This is Overhang Building 82, better known as Watchtower or Diving Board, and the first thing we're gonna discuss is the location and site. As you know, there are 2 versions of this building alongside the Duchess River, one next to Artillery Battery and another one next to Repulsor, but both share similar site conditions. Let's focus on the southern location next to Repulsor. The building sits on top of a mountain hillside nearby the river, which most likely consists of a mixture of soils that allow for a good structural foundation. According to the lore, Kings Canyon is an island on Solas, a desert planet in the Outlands where it's always summer. Since we know the skybox is fixed in-game, we can simply check the compass while staring at the sun to confirm its position and the time of day. In this case, the sun appears to be located in the west, around 2 or 3 p.m., which is known to be the hottest time of day. This is a very realistic feature that actually benefits gameplay. It offers the brightest sunlight possible, and it casts beautiful dynamic shadows across the map. And lastly, we have wind direction, a feature that is random in-game, but we can easily check it out by looking at the ocean's movement, which appears to be roughly from east to west. As you can see, most of the site conditions are realistic and they even play a role in the map design. So let's keep digging into the building's history. We're gonna classify the structure based on its use designation before the Apex games. The lore states that most of the original buildings in Solas were built by the Interstellar Manufacturing Corporation, or IMC for short, as part of their efforts to transform the planet into a hub for research and development, but also for military purposes. The first iteration of the Watchtower appeared in Titanfall 1, and it was later revamped by the Syndicate during the construction for the Apex games in Kings Canyon. That's some pretty cool narrative and context, but it doesn't really give us any information of the use designation. So let's take a closer look at the building structure itself. Building 82 seems to be equipped with 2 main fuel tanks and high pressure pumps with pipelines that connect to various docks and a complex fire quenching system. In addition, all of the spaces in the main floor are secured by control access terminals and are observed by CCTV systems. Therefore, because of the historical context and the way these systems are laid out in the structure, I would classify Building 82 under the factory industrial category, which groups buildings dedicated to fabricating, repair, or processing operations with a moderate hazard and risk to its occupants and adjacent properties. Evidently, the building fits into the narrative of the game in a pragmatic way without necessarily affecting gameplay. So if you've enjoyed the video so far, make sure to hit the like button and leave a comment below on which building you'd like me to cover next. Now let's get back to our next topic, structural design. Here, we're usually looking to understand if a structure is capable of resisting all applied loads without failing. But for the sake of this video, we're gonna focus on the overall system and materials. Funnily enough, the name of the building reveals the type of structure, an overhang shape, which is why we call it the diving board. This is a classic example of the concept form follows function, which essentially states that the purpose of a building should be the starting point for its design. hence why this Watchtower building overhanging a cliff uses an overhang structure. Now, these types of structures require large foundations for support, depending on their height and length. That's why Building 82 is attached to a retaining structure system, because it provides the support needed to stand on its own as a visually impactful landmark, and the entire POI seems to be built using reinforced concrete and structural steel. The main volume rests on top of two slanted columns, and its interior is a free floor plan design thanks to the beam system, meaning there are no columns to interrupt the flow of the spaces. Alright, so far so good, that's just another check mark. Let's move on to the main floor and a bit of the section or vertical design. Here's a very basic floor plan that I drafted myself, where you can clearly see the different areas and hierarchy of spaces. That's pretty straightforward, right? Well, let's take a closer look and think from an architecture perspective. Like for instance, how the control room offers a 180-degree glass facade with a clear view of the surroundings in a very narrow and panoramic way that is enhanced by the low ceilings and sub-level platforms. This is very on par with building orientation, because structures should have their main facades looking at the best site views while also being mindful of sun exposure. That is why the longest facades with wide, continuous window panels are located on the northern and southern side of the building, because they are the least exposed during daylight, while the eastern and western facades remain short, minimizing overexposure during the hottest times of day. Now, if we look at the section or vertical design, we'll notice that the access area includes hallways and stairs to enter the main floor and roof, but a vertical shaft is placed in the middle of it, creating a void and breaking the circulation of the space. And although having more than one entry or exit point complies with code regulations, in reality, buildings of this height and use designation would have access to more than one floor, not only for user flow purposes, but for service and maintenance. Like many buildings in Apex Legends, players cannot enter the middle floors. Instead, we're only capable of using the ground floor, main floor, and/or roof. And while this strays away from lifelike buildings, these design choices are actually the ones that provide a good gameplay experience. For example, the fixed opening in the ceiling, the seamless vertical zipline shaft, the divided parapets on the roof, or the interrupted guardrails on the stairs. All of these do not comply with building standards in real life, but they were designed that way to give us the best gameplay experience possible. Alright, seems like the structural design works, but the floor and section plans not so much. Now let's discuss the last topic. Spatial circulation refers to the way people, or in this case we the players, move around and interact with a building physically and through time. This building, like many other POIs in Apex Legends, is approachable from every angle but only offers a few entrance points. And once players are inside the building, it prompts a multitude of paths for user flow, but only through gameplay. You see, compared with real-life layouts, these spaces are rather dull and feel empty. Sure, they have air ducts, data cable trays, fire quenching systems, sub-levels and corridors, plus some furniture and equipment, yet there's really nothing interesting going on when it comes to user experience. And that is exactly why it works. It's a deliberate game decision to give players as much room as possible to shine. Because when gameplay is the focus, every development choice will revolve around it. And it is through the player's actions that these spaces become more than what they are. Bring into the mix the game's mechanics such as running, sliding, jumping, wall bouncing, tap strafing, super gliding, and so on. Plus the legends with certain movement abilities. The possibilities for spatial circulation are endless. There's no doubt that many aspects of this building, like the site conditions and structural design, are accurate. However, Respawn chose gameplay elements like open floor plans and limited vertical access over accuracy to make a building we all know and love. So, the next time you jump into Apex Legends and land in your favorite POI, maybe take a closer look at how the buildings are designed. Just make sure you're not contested. Until next time, this is Spear signing off.